Hello and welcome. I can't wait to introduce today's guest, Whitney McNair. Whitney is a top 500 realtor in Oklahoma City, an active duty passive income Oklahoma City meetup leader, coaching candidate, and local mentor. She's a multifamily real estate investor, a former Division I athlete at the University of Tennessee Lady Vols rowing, and she owns two single families, a short-term rental cabin in the Smokies, four duplexes, and a mobile home park with her husband, Joe. And then, if that wasn't enough, she's also currently working on a flip. So I'm really excited to dig in and hear from you, Whitney, and learn all about your experience in real estate.
Yeah, Tracy, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so let's start out with what inspired you to enter the world of real estate, and how did you get started?
Yeah, so like any other military spouse, we were at Fort Riley. I had a college degree, I have military spouse friends that were engineers. The job market was really tough there. No one was hiring. I got tired of the interviews. And then also we were, in a housing situation with a house that my husband had previously purchased in Washington State.
Hmm.
And we're facing a short sale on that because the market had softened. And, he just didn't really have any help as a veteran purchasing a house, and was even told, some things about VA loans that are incorrect, like you can only use it once. Um, and so they set him up on some kind of like 80-20 loan where, the on the it was like having a second mortgage and he just paid the interest on it. So that's not super helpful to a veteran.
Hmm.
And so um, we PCS'd from Fort Riley, and I really just wanted to, help veterans and their families. So I've been doing that for about 10 years, but that's kind of what led me into real estate.
I love that. I think, sometimes our personal experiences kind of drive us into, like, man, this is not right. If this is happening to me, imagine how many other people this is happening to. There's got to be a better way to handle it, right? And I know from my own personal experience recently, like it's it's shocking how much misinformation is out there about the VA loan and how many times you can use it and how they do the calculation and all that different stuff. And so I think having knowledgeable folks in the industry who really focus on making sure that we have access to information that can help us make the right decision is really great. So thank you for doing that. Now, you've been an agent for a number of years. How did you make the transition from working in the industry as an agent to investing yourself?
Yeah, so, as an agent, we don't really get a retirement. Um, with the company I'm currently with, and I've been with, for a long time. There's more avenues, with my company EXP than most. So we have, some stock options and things like that, and then rev share. Um, but you continually have to, and I love serving people and I love helping people, but I also love my family. And so you're continually, on the phone 9, 10 o'clock at night, especially in a really busy market. And then, you're basically having to help people over and over. And if you're not saving anything, with that, you're not saving for your future. And there's been 6 months where I've worked 12, 14-hour days in this industry without a day off. And I don't think a lot realize that, but that's what it takes to be a top agent. And so, eventually there just has to be some more balance. And so, um, real estate investing does that because as a realtor, you can, claim real estate professional and then, use some of your write-offs from your rental properties against your income. And so it's really helped me save on, taxes. Real estate investing has. So it's just given me a lot more balance in many ways, and then knowing I'll have a retirement plan.
That's really interesting, not being an agent myself, I don't think I ever really considered, that it is a very kind of transactional business. And as long as you're selling homes, you're making money. But as soon as you stop, like that's it. And so if you're not living, significantly below your means and stocking away money for the future, you're kind of stuck in that hamster wheel of like having to keep transacting in order to keep money coming in. So I think that's really important to know for realtors and not just realtors, but other folks that are in kind of like the transactional space. I think wholesaling would probably fit that bill as well. That, you kind of have to take a step back and think about the long game and how are you going to translate that cash flow that you have into actually building long-term wealth. Um, how did you pick, an asset class? I think the real estate world is so big, right? Like, how did you decide, like, okay, this is where I'm going to invest?
My I have a good friend that's an investor. Um, he's a little bit more conservative than I am because I look at all divest investments from a developer perspective, and I look at the whole picture. But he was purchasing duplexes, and so I was like, well, I think I'll do that. Um, and the first one I purchased, the numbers weren't awesome, but with the market, the rents increased, so the numbers work now. And then there was a developer that he connected me with, and my friend bought some, I bought some. So I bought like, three duplexes in this particular neighborhood. But then what starts to, happen, you think you may have found like a niche, but the market, rose and got, more competitive, and just with the increase of prices that we saw like between 2020 and especially 21 and 22, the developers just decided to sell these neighborhoods of duplexes to one entity. I don't like not having title insurance, like you're
Mhm.
not as protected overseas. So I researched that, and then I always wanted to have a short-term rental, but I did want to have the good foundation of a portfolio in case like I didn't do as well, in certain months with a short-term rental. And we bought one from a friend, and that really hasn't been the case that I've ever needed to pay a mortgage on it because of the location. Um, but then again, with like the short-term rental market right now, um, I'm seeing posts on a daily basis. Hey, I don't have any January or February bookings. Well, my cabin's like fully booked. I'm not making what I might in March or April, but I'm still doing pretty well.
Yeah, you're seeing traffic.
Yeah, so it's just kind of a natural progression of like, okay, well, what's working? Taking action. I always take the opportunity, even if it maybe doesn't fit my particular buy box, but I've had to shift a lot, with the changes in the market.
I think that's such an important point that you just mentioned about taking the opportunity, right? Like one of my mentors last year, that was like my big takeaway from like she gave this big speech on stage. And the one thing that really stuck with me was that whole idea of like say yes to the next opportunity that's in front of you because you never know where that's going to take you. And there are a number of times where I was like, oh, I don't know, like this is scary. I don't know if this is right, but like it's here. So like, let's go. And, you know, you just kind of step out and hope that the ground is there when your foot goes down. Right. But like, that can open so many doors and create opportunities that you never even realized were beyond that first step. And so if you just sit on the sidelines and keep waiting and watching for the, you know, the stars to align perfectly and everything to be exactly how you think it's supposed to be, then you never end up actually doing anything at all.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, and that's really how I got into multifamily investing because, being with a mentor or being a mentor with active duty passive income, we're able to take, whatever education they offer, and they offer, a multifamily academy. And so that's how I got into multifamily investing, was taking the opportunity, but also, you know, I I broker a lot of my own deals. So, if they're single family, you're running to the title company, you're filling out a bunch of loan documents, you're doing a lot of paperwork to get maybe one or two doors. And I just didn't see that as very scalable very
Hmm.
quickly.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about multifamily and why you like it compared to, you know, you've had the opportunity to do, you know, dabble in this and dabble in that and have a little bit of experience kind of across the board and a lot of different real estate investing opportunities, like beyond just that you don't have to do all of the things over and over and over again for each and every door, but like what is it that kind of sets that asset class apart?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that come to mind. It's a different class where we're able to actually, make a difference with investors and actually provide an opportunity to others to grow their money, right? So you're providing a service in this asset class that you may not provide, with single family homes. I know that there's, some investors that flip a lot of homes and they provide returns to private lenders. Um, but for the most part on the, smaller stuff, there's not as many opportunities for investors.
Hmm.
So I really like making a difference with other people's, in other people's lives and providing them opportunities and then having, relationships with investors. But also you can really provide so many, places to live for people that just need like an affordable home or an affordable place to rent. Um, there's just a number of ways. I like the VA voucher programs that place veterans into homes. You can, own an apartment and house veterans. So there's just a lot of things I like. Um, but one thing I like about this asset class is, we're still able to provide our investors with some depreciation, which I think is a little different than other investing avenues.
Yeah, I think you touched on all the reasons why I love multifamily too. Another reason that I love multifamily, I think particularly coming from a military background, is that we get to do it as a team. So I'm curious to hear your perspective on that side of things, coming from being an agent where you're used to kind of controlling all of it. Like, how has that transition been for you?
Yeah, so you definitely have to realize that you're new and that you don't know everything. Um, being an agent, I do know my way around a transaction. I know a lot about title work. I know about how surveys work, right? But not having, using the asset management software and things like that, there's definitely a learning curve. And so, um, being an agent, we have teams that help us, um, get our buyers to the finish line, like a home inspector, things like that. Um, but from multifamily from the purchase to the closing, you have a collaborative team that works together. So that's something that's a little different. So I definitely think going from something to where I'm in control of every step of the transaction, I definitely have had to step back and say, I'm new. I need to rely on their expertise in this, certain situation. Um, the underwriting is different,
Mhm.
on the multifamily. And so there's definitely, just things that investors on a GP team, a general partnership team, have, specialized knowledge in. And so it's really good to rely on them for their expertise. So you kind of have to step back and understand personalities and know how that works with a team, because it's not like, being the main person who's in control of a transaction, unless maybe you're an asset manager. Um, but when you're new, you're probably not going to be the lead. And so you really, have to kind of step back and really, trust others too. And just make sure you have a good team.
Yeah, I think making sure that you find the right partners is definitely it's a process, right? And it's another one of those things where part of the way that we learn is by doing. And so you're going to have a really hard time finding the right partners if you're not partnering with people, right?
Right.
And so I know I've heard the recommendation a number of times, like just because you do one deal with a group doesn't mean that you have to do every deal from then forward with them. And so, especially when you're getting started in the multifamily space, it's really good to kind of do it one deal at a time where you're not locking yourself in until you've had a chance to do multiple deals and really see how people operate, how people respond when something goes bad, how do people prioritize their investors and their investors' funds, and, really going through that process of, getting to know them in a deal, not just what they say they want to do, but what they actually do and how they actually respond.
Right. And one of the big things for me is, do our values align? I have
Yeah.
core values that um are kind of a standard that I live by every day, and I really don't waver from those. And so, that's one of the big things for me is, do our values align? Did they put the investors, first? Um, because our investors are everything.
Absolutely. That is definitely like number one critical value for me as well, is that stewardship piece, because if I'm going to bring my investors to a deal, I want to be very confident that they are the number one priority for the team.
Right, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about, besides just kind of learning and growing with partnerships and all that sort of thing, like, have you dealt with any challenges over the course of your investing experience that you would like to share, and kind of any lessons learned from that?
Yeah, um, I think you want to have a good partnership agreement. I did learn that lesson, not in the multifamily space, but before I got in. Um, and you just want to highlight in there, like if something happens, like if life changes, what are the steps that are going to be taken? Um, you know, Duties and responsibilities really need to be highlighted. Um, I think I think those were, some of my challenges. Some of the other challenges have been, um, just property, condition.
Mm,
Sometimes you have to have things repaired. And so you definitely want funds set aside for that. That's something I feel pretty strongly about. Um, Especially if you're working, on your own. Even with a multifamily team, you really need to have, funds set aside for CapEx and things like that. I've seen and I've known several investors that have come up to me at conferences and have told me they lost everything in '08. And I just, politely ask them if they can tell me kind of what they learned or why. And they said,
Mhm.
I was just buying and buying and buying. And I didn't have, any reserves. And they described it to me as being, empty on a gas
Mhm.
tank. So, I've learned to run everything like a business, keep really good records um on everything, from large or small. Um and then I would definitely say one of the biggest things you do need to know how to deal with as an investor um is really just having a good mindset, because
Mm.
if your mindset's not there, some of these day-to-day things may be more difficult. I remember, I remember on one of the first properties we got, um, our property manager didn't do a background check, and so we had a felon in one of our properties, and and this is someone who is like a professional tenant, like they know how to get around the system.
Mhm.
And so they pay about 7, 8 months of rent and then they get evicted and then they go find a new place where someone doesn't run a background check. And they'd done it like 4 or 5 times. Um, and then I got wind that they did it, a couple years like after we had to evict them. Um, and so, some property managers have teams and they don't supervise their teams or train their teams. And so that's been one of the biggest eye-opening or lessons learned for me, is I definitely really watch property managers very, very closely. Um, that whole situation, I learned so much, I wouldn't go back and change it,
Yeah.
because it's really given me some great clues with what to watch,
Mhm.
when you're hiring a property manager.
Yeah, what to look for, what questions to ask.
Um, that tenant had a warrant out and got to spend some time in the county jail. So that was a interesting one.
Oh man, can you still collect their rent?
I wish she
Mm,
got the free rent she wanted, I guess,
that's
but
funny.
that's
Yeah. Different circumstances than she was planning for.
yeah.
I know you mentioned mindset and how important that is, and I'd like to go back to that again for a minute. And I know, your background, you come from like Division 1 sports and you're an athlete. And do you think that your experience in that space has helped you in your time as an agent and as an investor in terms of like how, kind of thinking about limiting beliefs and just the way that you approach things?
Yeah, so there's several things that come to mind. Um there was a movie that came out, around Christmas time that really showed how hard the sport of rowing is. And it's one of the most grueling sports. And you don't get to stop. Um, some of the races are like 2,000 meters to 10,000 meters. You don't get to stop. And then I was explaining to my husband after that movie came out that, like, because my husband's a runner,
Hmm.
we were both Division 1 athletes, and so we kind of have that in common. So when he's done with a race, he could like stop. Like on one of those teams, when you're done, you have to row your boat back to the dock, and then you're like lifting this huge boat that weighs like who knows how much. You're having to like
Like
climb it
carry
all
it
the way up,
somewhere. Yeah.
carry it somewhere. And then this 5 foot tall person, is giving you the demands and making sure it's right. And um, so it's almost kind of something that, like, you know, when you're finished, you're not really finished and you keep going for a while. Um, so it's kind of like in multifamily when we do all this work and we close on something and we get to the finish line and then, we're still, asset managing that, right?
Right.
So, um, but I think one of the biggest things that comes to mind is that, usually in Division I athletics, there's as many tutors as you want. There's a dining hall, someone's cooking your food. There's high performance coaching, which is new to a lot of multifamily investors, but I
Mhm.
had that in college, because we envision the race, um, and have coaching on that. We have a nutritionist. So we have like all these people on our team, right? And then sometimes I think, even not being an investor, just being an adult, we get into an adulthood and we don't have the support system like we did. Like, it's okay to have a high performance coach. It's okay to have a psychologist. It's okay to have a nutritionist.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the whole idea of like you were talking about like high performance coaching and this perspective of like why would we not continue to have these people in our corner who are going to help us be the best version of ourselves, right? So I think at any point where you are in life, like you said, whether you're an investor or an athlete or you're just living your life, like having those people around you, and that may not be that you're going to go and pay for a high performance coach, but surrounding yourself with people who are going to encourage you to grow to be the best version of yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Helps me, hire the people I need to grow as a person. Um, and I think that's important. I have, a couple different business coaches and, it's always good to look at your yearly plan and say, okay, who do I need in my life who's a professional, that can advance me to where I need to go and help, hold me accountable and be, the person I need to be. So, as a professional, I do think it's, good to set some money aside for that.
Absolutely. And I think you keyed in on another really important piece there, which is the accountability, right? Like it's great. You can read a bunch of books. I mean, you can learn stuff for free online. Like there's so much content out there. Like, but the piece that most people are missing, it's not that they don't have access to the information, but it's that accountability piece. Like who is actually going to be there to make sure that you're doing what you said you wanted to do? And if you said, I don't want to be this version of me for the rest of my life. I want to grow and I want to do that over there. And the me today is not ready for the thing that I want that's over there. And so like how am I going to start taking those steps to become the person that I need to be so that I can do the thing that I want to do? And so you absolutely like that's just not going to happen by chance. Like there has to be some intentionality and action there to actually move in that direction. And you certainly can get there a lot further, a lot faster if you're willing to invest in yourself by paying for coaches and mentorship and folks that are going to bring you along that path.
Right. And anything that, saves you time or, like coaching saves me time in a sense because it pushes me further. So if I have to pay, someone, 50, $100 an hour, I don't see that as a loss. I see, okay, I'm worth maybe, for an example, like $200 an hour. So I'll pay someone for the $100 an hour jobs. Um, whether it's house cleaning or coaching or just, things that advance me and get me there. But I think one of the special things about hiring a coach is they understand you and your personality, right? Um, so if you're having a problem, they can kind of understand what may be best for you instead of and getting, some specialized attention that way. And sometimes, just having an issue to work through, um, can
Yeah.
really, can really be helpful
Yeah, having that sounding board to be able
for sure.
to, talk it out, think it out. I'm one of those external processors. My my poor husband, I'll get home from work for the day and I'll just be like, blah, 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 and he's like, what is happening right now? I'm like, I just need to talk this out for a minute. Okay, I'm listening. And then I get to the end of it and I'm like, okay, I figured it out. And he's like, okay, glad I got it out. It's like I can't make sense of the words when they're stuck inside my head. I have to be able to like process them. So that like definitely is something that resonates with me personally is like sometimes that's all you need. You just need that person to be there to help you kind of get through it.
For sure.
Awesome. Well, I'd love to hear from you a little bit of advice for like if there's folks that are listening who have been interested in getting into real estate investing, but they just have not figured out like how to actually get started. Do you have any advice for them on like what are some like specific action steps that they could start, actually doing?
Oh, I see, especially being like a local mentor and being
Mhm.
someone who helps investors and leads meetups and things like that. Um, I definitely, see some analysis paralysis in the investing space. And you definitely don't have to start big. You can start small. And I really, the biggest thing and probably the least risky thing an investor can do is just go and purchase a single family home with their VA loan or FHA loan and house hack and move a couple times because you can buy up to a 4 unit with those loan types. We don't have really a whole lot of 4 units in Oklahoma City here. But I know I've helped some investors purchase duplex and things like that. Um, and that just kind of helps get your foot wet, like understanding property taxes and how, some of the, tax returns work and some of the tax advantages and kind of just start, gaining some ground and confidence and starting from there. You don't have to start big. Um, but definitely it's definitely possible to buy, 2, 3 homes a year or, 3, 4 properties a year when you're just starting out. Um, Real estate to me has not really been um honestly just super risky. Like I've lost money here and there, but not really a whole lot. Um I think it's good to have have a slush fund if you're just going to buy on your own. Um and do that multifamily too. We have reserves. Um So those are some of the things I suggest, but also knowing that this is just kind of a long game and it's not really something where you're going to get rich overnight. Um, you know, I know that there's a lot of, TikToks and social media and a lot of different, gurus and a lot of different programs. Um, And, a lot of people have done really, really well in real estate investing. But I think it was Tarek El Moussa at Bigger Pockets was on stage. And I just loved the way he was talking because he was really being real and like actually telling people like, yeah, I lost like money on, I don't remember how many it was, but it may have been like 2 or 3 in a row.
Hmm.
So he had to go and I think he was like wholesaling or he's doing something to make that up somewhere else. And so real estate investing has some risk to it. Um, but for a lot of investors, if you do it right, the rewards have been like 10, 20x the risk. So the risk has just been so minimal. Um, And I would say, to get some education, but maybe to find, more local investors who
Hmm.
know the market, or some mentors um who are not like maybe the number one person on TikTok, but that can give you like some real world examples. Because I do share, with the investors that start out in the meetups, like I do share some of the things that have happened to me. And I'm pretty real about, just there's hard days in real estate investing, but like the good is like way better than the hard.
Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience today before we wrap things up?
Um, I'm just excited about um, the next few years in real estate and real estate investing. And um, I just really want to encourage others, to definitely consider it, as an avenue um to financial freedom. Um, I think even my mom, like I tell her some of the, things, and back in some of those generations, it was okay. You go to college, you get a good job, you have a 401k. So I just like to encourage others, just to take the first move and get started, because it really is a great path. And I think there's going to be some great opportunities, especially in multifamily in the next few years.
Absolutely. I'm right there with you on that one. I'm very excited to see what the next few years are going to bring for real estate investing. So don't sit on the sidelines. Get out there, take some action, and start doing it. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your insights and experience with us. What is the best way for our guests to connect with you if they would like to continue to follow your journey?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. That's probably the best way. So it's never quit wit is my Instagram.
Okay, awesome. We'll get that in the show notes as well for easy reference. And I want to say thank you as well to our wonderful listeners for tuning into this episode and being a part of this community. If you found value in this episode, please hit the subscribe button and leave us a review. Until next time, remember that your path to financial freedom and the life of your dreams might be closer than you think. Take that first step and explore the possibilities. Stay tuned for more insightful episodes. And again, thanks for listening.